everyone, welcome back to Crochet and Crime, where I crochet and I tell true crime stories. Today we'll be talking about the dating show killer, otherwise known as Rodney Alcala. I will put out a quick disclaimer, this does get pretty brutal and kind of graphic, so if you're not into that, I suggest you click away from this video, and yeah. With that, let's get into it. Rodney Alcala was born in San Antonio, Texas, but was raised in Mexico. When Rodney was a teenager, his father abandoned the family, causing the family to move to Los Angeles. Rodney was loved by everyone since he was a likable person, and he had a wonderful personality. In 1960, Rodney joined the Army. Then in 1965, he went AWOL. He asked for a weekend away, which he was granted, and then he stole a car and drove to New York City and just kind of stayed there. He didn't go back to the Army, he just dipped. One night after he was leaving a bar, he notices a woman walking alone, and so he followed her and proceeded to attack her with a glass Coke bottle. Luckily, the woman got away and went to the police and got Rodney arrested. The Army saw this and was like, "Hey, buddy, we found you. Come on." So they tell him that they're bringing him back to base, and Rodney was like, "Nuh-uh," and somehow escaped the Army that was supposed to take him back. He goes back to California and his family welcomes him back, and his mom notices him acting very weird, but she kind of just brushes it off. And Rodney tried to get with his younger sister, like he was flirting with her, and he even exposed himself to her, and his family was like, "No." And the Army caught up with him and was like, "Hey buddy, come on back, champ." And so they brought him back, charged him for going AWOL, and he had to pay a fine for going AWOL and the attack on the lady. He was then honorably discharged, and then he proceeded to enroll in UCLA and go for a photography major. Rodney was quite the popular guy, and he had tons of friends. He would take everybody's photos and just a friendly guy all around. One day, he's driving past a hotel he was staying at and noticed a young woman walking alone. Her name was Tolly Shapiro, and she was 8 years old. And Rodney pulls over and asks if she needs a ride. She declines and continues walking, and Rodney keeps driving next to her, and he tells her that he knows her parents, and so Tolly was like, "Okay," and hops on in. So someone sees this and follows the car back to Rodney's place, and Rodney then forces the little girl into his place, and the eyewitness sees this and is like, "What the heck?" and then calls the police. The police come, and then they're banging on the door, no answer. Then they hear noises, they continue to knock on the door, still no answer. And then Rodney opens the curtains, booty cheeks out. Like, full on, he's exposing himself to these cops pretty much. He's like, "What's up?" Like, "I'm busy." So Rodney says that he just took a shower, which was a lie. Like, he wasn't even wet. He was dry. And so the police kicked down the door. Rodney had fled, and they found the little girl beaten and bloody on the floor, and they took her to the hospital where she spent months recovering. and the police found Rodney's school ID and found photos of little boys and girls. Gross. So they were now on the hunt for Rodney. Rodney fled to New York, changed his name to John Berger. He then enrolled in New York's School of Art, where he studied film. And after college, Rodney, or John, became a camp counselor. One night, two of the kid campers went down to the post office and saw a wanted poster of Rodney. They recognized him, but it wasn't exactly clicking. So they go back and tell the people in charge what they saw, and they go down there themselves and see that it looks exactly like John. And they call the police. The police come and pick up Rodney. He somehow escapes again. I couldn't find a source on how he was escaping. Maybe he went to magic camp and they just never said that. So somehow he gets out. He then gets captured again, and they put him in a cell until he goes to trial for beating the crap out of a child. When police asked Tolly's parents if she can testify, they said no, since she already has been through enough. So without her giving her side of the story, they couldn't charge Rodney. Instead, he got a plea deal, and he was a smooth talker, and he only got 3 years, and like that, bada bing, bada boom, he was out. Then he got arrested again for smoking marijuana with a 13-year-old girl, and he was in jail for 2.5 years. Rodney went back to New York and was taking pictures of people and arranging meetings to take these photos, and he was just really using the hell out of this camera. Ellen Hoover was one of the ladies he took photos of, and one day she goes missing and the police are looking for clues, and on July 15th, she had marked on her calendar, John Berger. The police were like, well, shit. So they're searching for this lady and making sure nothing happens to her. And the police find Rodney and question him, and he said they met up, took photos, and she left. Nothing else. And the police knew he was a crappy dude, but they couldn't arrest him because they still had no Ellen. 11 months later, the police found the skeletal remains of Ellen in the woods, and Rodney had fled to California again, and during his time in Cali, he took photos, and these 4 girls, Jill Barcombe, Georgia Wittix, Charlotte Lamb, and Jill Parento, were kind of regulars to Ronnie, and they were found dead. These ladies were mistaken for victims of other killers that were on the loose, and not one person even bat an eye in Rodney's direction. There were too many other killers. This brings us to The Dating Game. The Dating Game was a TV show where contestants would compete for a blind date with one of the like bachelorettes. There would be 3 contestants, and then they would all like answer questions that this bachelorette has to give them, and our magic man Rodney was on this show. Cheryl Bradshaw was our lovely bachelorette for this episode, and Rodney ended up winning the game and winning a date with her. Yay! So her instincts kick in, and after the show, she called the producers and was like, okay, this dude is a weirdo. I'm not going. Screw that. And after the show, a few months later, Rodney collected his final victim. He found two girls, Robin and Bridget, and he asked to take their photos in their bikinis for a swimsuit competition, which was a lie. He was a creep. So they went to the beach and they took different photos, and there was an eyewitness and was like, this is weird. Two girls shouldn't be with this guy who's definitely a weirdo. And so they go over there and they scold Rodney, and Rodney runs away, and the person calls the police come over and question the little girls, and so they give their statements and they go away. Robin was like, I'm late for dance class, I need to go, and so Bridget lends her bike, and so she goes and she disappears. 12 days later, and they found her shoes, and close by was her body. And she was obviously attacked, and she was also eaten by animals, I guess. She was near mountains, so there was a lot of like coyotes and stuff like that. And the police, on the day of like the beach, they asked the girls for a description of Rodney, and they used that to be like, oh yeah, this guy unalived Robin. And so they asked Bridget to describe Rodney. They drew him, found him, arrested him, searched his house, and he had keys to this storage locker thing. And so they look in there, and they found explicit photos that he used to that he took pictures of with his camera, and they found out that he collected trophies from his victims, and like earrings like Robin had, and other stuff like that, and that was used to determine that Rodney was in fact the person who killed Robin. They had concrete evidence that it was Rodney, and this began, wait for it, a 30-year trial. The first trial, his team said that the jury was influenced against Rodney, whatever that means, and he was a smooth talker, so he got out of it. 7 years later, smooth talker Rodney gets out of being sentenced to death, and since this is a 30-year trial, you can already see what is happening. And in his final trial, which took place in 2010, Rodney decided to represent himself. And since this is a newer time, they had DNA testing, and so they had DNA evidence of Rodney, and a new face enters the courtroom, Tolly, the little girl, now woman, that was assaulted by Rodney. And she came there to testify against him. And all of this was more than enough to get Rodney his third and final death sentence. Rodney died on July 24th, 2021 of natural causes. He died in his cell. So yeah, I'm going to finish this up and I'll be right back. Alright, here is the finished piece. It is a little star garland. I have little stars. I have both blue and purple. I just had a lot of blue and purple yarn, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!